All right, I'll start the session now. I've just started recording. Thank you everyone for coming along to our session today, sort of a lunchtime session. Used to call them a brown bag session at the last company I worked at. People would bring their lunch and sit and have a gab about different bits and pieces of technology. So I suppose that's sort of where we're going to look today, talking about rapid application development. I suppose thinking more about how we operate in today's environment and the different needs of many organisations in changing and challenging times, and how we need a bit more pace to what we do as far as applications. So today that's me, Chris O'Connor. I've got my webcam on and you can see me, but I won't be looking at the screen, my webcam all the time. I've got my big screens over here, so bear with me and have a look at, that's just the side of my head, sorry. So I've got Philip Healy as well on the line, who's my...
Hi everybody, and thanks for coming along.
Thank you, Phil.
I'll queue up the questions in the chat if there's any questions for you, Chris.
Okay.
And ask people to forward their questions in the chat so that we can get the things that you've come for answered.
Great. All right. And it's Phil's birthday today, so
thank
happy birthday, Mr. Healy.
Well, those who stay at the end can have a piece of cake.
There you go, virtual birthday cake. Agreed.
That's an incentive. I'm staying.
All right. Okay, so thank you, Phil. I'll continue. So I suppose what I wanted to talk about was acknowledging the general velocity and pace of today's business. Obviously, many organisations, pretty much all of us, are experiencing some change in workplace scenario, being with the lockdown and the COVID-19 disruptions to standard work practices. Most people are now working from home. I'm working from home myself, and many of my other colleagues as well. Many clients as well. We've dealt with and spoke to many people, and they'll have kids in the background and dogs sort of pestering them and those sorts of things. But that's sort of part and parcel now of the new way of working. I suppose it again highlights then the need for this business agility and changes to digital transformation. The number of organisations who told staff, no, you won't be able to work from home, sorry, are now saying, actually, everyone, you need to work from home. So the need for that and many organisations needing to quickly ramp that up over the matter of a couple of weeks. So that's really been interesting to note and see people struggle with some of that. Some organisations have been ready to go, and some have found it a bit harder. So aside from the demands on IT teams and infrastructure and such, again, sort of highlighting the need for rapid in the modern workplace and the need to get things done quickly. And we'll have a look at an example that we're sort of talking over about a return to work application that we've been able to stand up for a demo client of ours, just to prove how quickly we can get something up and going and in the hands of users, rather than needing to do War and Peace or whatever it might be, large projects. The other thing we wanted to talk about is the tools that we're using in this place is a product called OutSystems. That's not to say that's for every application or every solution, but highlighting the ability for citizen developers. And that's a sort of an interesting phrase you may or may not have heard in the marketplace, is that people like myself, I'm a programmer and developer, and I can talk in C# and JSON and React.js and all those coding goodies. But there's many people who don't know or don't need to know those tools and those applications and just want to get the job done. And a lot of those people are often hamstrung by IT or projects departments and put at the back of the queue. And it's pretty much down to that, you know, damn it, I need to do it myself. And the tools are allowing that. If people are used to things in Excel or Microsoft Access databases, as it might have been, to click dev, that's what we're here to highlight, and that's what we want to talk through. So calling out to all citizen developers who are slightly technical but heavy on their business knowledge. They know what they need and they know what they want. So further to that, the need to integrate and collaborate between people is obviously the need to integrate and collaborate between systems. So in the black here, we've got a number of different core applications that might be within a business system. Might be just simply your list of users or a database of clients. And then our SaaS offerings, our software as a service, things like Salesforce and even Office 365, and then the commercial off-the-shelf products, which might be a purchased product, an SAP, let's say, or a JD Edwards, or those sorts of larger ERP systems. So the need to integrate and read and write between systems is actually a really big thing these days. And so then what we look to do is we set up custom connectors between the core systems, and it might be a developer, programmer, IT task to do some of that initial integration and set those up. And then it's down to someone like a citizen developer to actually do the screens and display this user there and update that record over there. But they don't need to know the ins and outs in the background of how it all works. Another consideration is sort of looking back at actually the job to be done and what we need to do. And often many of these solutions, these sort of point solutions, I guess is one phrase, is looking at the requirements of the system. We don't need, again, war and peace, so we don't need a large, project and IT and project managers and the rest. And many projects run now under this notion of agile, but it's kind of a tautology in some respects, is that there's not many business units and some staff even that are very agile, little a agile. So can we be agile in the projects that we create and define within a business? And do we suffer from analysis paralysis and that whole notion of making sure we've got everything defined and fully structured and wireframed and database designs and everything? Do we have all that ready before we can embark? And if we don't have that, then we can't start, kind of thing. As opposed to the opposite of that is that notion of just start. Let's just start. MVP, you might have heard the term minimum viable product, and it's very much a thing nowadays. And even if you look at Microsoft and what they're doing with things like Office 365 and Microsoft Teams as a product is only really 2 years old, but it's hugely functional now, and it's changing and growing rapidly. And they just add a few more bits, and then suddenly your app's updated and you've got a few more functions. So rather than design it all to the nth degree, and then start developing it, and then start testing it, and then do deployment. It's build a bit, test it and deploy it, and then build a bit more, and then test it and deploy that. So fail fast and learn and adapt. That's much like the Steve Jobs sort of adage of, and Thomas Edison, I think it was, who'd said that I haven't failed 500 times. I now know 500 ways that don't work. So just start and get going. Another sort of analogy that I like to relate to is the small ships and big ships, in that the smallest ships are often easiest to turn, and there was that cliche of it's hard to turn the QE2. Well, actually the QE2 is actually not the biggest ship anymore. So I went and had a look because I was curious. I went on a family cruise only 18 months or so ago, and this cruise liner called the Symphony of the Seas is 18 stories high. So it's like a city building with nearly 6,500 passengers. And it took nearly 2 years to build at a cost of $1 billion. So that massive scale, custom built, and it was a huge project before they got any value out of it. So 2 years of activity before they could even set sail, which, yes, it's an enormous achievement and can now do many, many things, but it took a while before they could actually get going. As opposed to the opposite end of the spectrum is looking at buying a platform or a product or something off the shelf, like a catamaran or I don't want to do a sailboat or a rowboat because that's not going to get me very far. But a catamaran, sort of a nice one. It's going to be a bit more expensive than a standard speedboat, but I could sail across the ocean if I needed to. I mean, and that's where the analogy sort of ends. But getting moving quickly, getting some value out of our investment. Much like low code, this notion of low code or no code, it's easy to learn, easy for citizen developers. It's huge productivity for a developer, someone who's a programmer like myself who understands screen design and event-driven. When you click a button, what it needs to run some code and update a database. All of that knowledge is now sort of elevated into just clicks, not having to write lines of code. The other consideration is that this low-code area OutSystems has a great governance area, and so for needing to move between development and test and production environments and updating code and components that way, there's a great platform for that. There's an interesting stat from Gartner talking about low code, and that 65%, so that's 2/3 really, of all software development will include low code by 2024, and that's only 4 years away. So if you think back to 2016, that doesn't sound that long ago. Well, that's the same sort of time frame as we've got between now and a lot of our applications will be done with low code and click dev. So I suppose that brings power to the citizen developer, again, not at the mercy of IT, not being told, oh, we can't start that project and I know you need that solution, but we'll put it on the list kind of thing. So that empowerment, and a business owner or a technical owner or even a small department with a couple of people who are tech savvy or can be trained and understand this tooling, you can get going and get started, that notion of just start. Now, as far as the actual tool that I want to show and talk through today is a product and a platform called OutSystems. Now, this is not me rapidly clicking around, but this is just a little animation of the designer. We have our ability to create screens and mobile apps, drag and drop in our different UI components, being a chart or a button or a grid. We've got a nice designer for our database there. And then we've got our ability to do logic and different branching and different processes as well. We're not going to touch on all of this, but I suppose I wanted to just show you very quickly, and then we'll go and have a look at it. So the actual, I'm going to move over and have a look at demo now. We don't want to sit and look at slides all day. So what we've got is a use case scenario of return to work. As I mentioned at the outset, organisations have changed how they work with their staff. And there's changes now with those staff coming back to the office. So following the lockdown and releasing some of that, I know many staff and many organisations are still doing work from home. I mean, my kids are back at school, my wife's back at school, she's a teacher, so she's grateful to be back in the office. But that sort of workplace CBD-based offices trying to make sure that we maintain social distancing in the workplace. So what we've done is we've got a little application that I put together as a bit of a sort of proof of concept. Only took me about 2 or 3 days to get this going. I've got a database covering off people and desks, and then teams of people, and then different work schedules. So we'd have team A would be working from home and team B would be working in the office. We've also got a mobile app where staff are asked to self-notify if they're feeling unwell. And if so, they're asked to work from home and quarantine. But if they're feeling well, then they've got to provide a photo using their mobile phone of a doctor's certificate. And this is all done with just clicking within the designer. I haven't written a single line of code. I suppose the only typing I've really done is to put in the list of my database names and fields and such. So I'll run you through the demo quickly of the solution, and then we'll have a look at it. And I'll make a quick change and show you how easy it is to use these low code and citizen developer tools. So bear with me as I change my screen now to this one here. All right, so this is our return to work dashboard. Now, it looks a bit plain and vanilla at the moment, but I have a list of people here, and these are from a database behind the scenes with OutSystems. And so there's myself there, Chris O'Connor, and my email address and my office location and a certificate. I haven't uploaded my certificate for a doctor certificate as yet. We've also got our list of teams, and at the moment we haven't got any people in teams. So let's put Adele and Alex into team A, and then Chris to team B, and then we'll just randomly add a couple of people. Just so what we're going to do here is maintain our social distancing, and I've worked out who needs to be in a particular team, and add a certain team to, add people to teams rather, and then we'll schedule those teams to some to work from home and some to work from the office, and that way we can maintain our sort of distancing and quota of people per square meters and such. So there we go. I've just got 2 database lists of people. and they're allocated to a different team. I've also got my list of desks and who desks are allocated to. And lastly, I've got my schedule here. So, these people are not allocated a desk, so I need to add a desk for him. So I can maintain the, if I needed to have hot desks or the not hot desks, so that people are not using other people's equipment or would organise cleaning or whatever it might be. I'm just letting a few more people in. Apologies, I hadn't seen that there was people waiting. Thank you for joining. So
we might just say, Chris, that we are recording this, so if anyone's got an issue with that, please just chat to me and find a way forward, but just to keep everyone posted.
Yep. So yeah, if you've missed the start of it, you can catch up, but if you don't, I haven't mentioned any names, but if you don't like being recorded, then we can talk about that. Okay, I'm going to move on. So we've got our list of people and our list of teams, and I'm going to look at now our list of schedules. So today being Tuesday the 16th, Team B is working in the office and Team A is working from home. So I can easily add a new schedule for Friday because I've only got Team A allocated for Friday. So if I go add, and for Friday the 19th, I'm going to do Team B. And they were, I think, working from home. So we've got our allocation there. Now, all I've done to create these database screens is to set up my database, and then I need to just drag and drop into a designer, and it automatically creates me these add and edit detail screens. It's pretty amazing, and as a programmer and a developer, I was quite impressed with how quick and easily I can get something going. So if I now look at my home dashboard, I've got now showing me who's in the office for today, 9 people in the office and 9 people from home. And I've got no one who's unavailable who has maybe tested unwell. But let's do that. Let's go into, I've also got a ability to move between dates. So we swap now. So we've got Adele, Alex and Henrietta, and Chris, Diego and Isaiah. So we can easily see who's in the office on whichever day. But let's say that I've been feeling unwell. So if I go into the Chris O'Connor row, and I'll just untick that, and it makes a sad face that I'm unavailable for whatever reason. So now if I have a look at my return to work dashboard, I've got in the office, working from home, and unavailable now, Chris O'Connor. But what I can do now is say that myself, I'm feeling better and I need to return to work. So I'll look at my mobile app now using my mobile phone. And what I'll do is I'll set that up to run off my Air server, and I'll show you what we have for users with a mobile phone. Maybe it was already running. So I have a little app that I can use to test out a mobile phone. The good bit is that I can actually, it is already running, I beg your pardon. I have my mobile phone here, but before we do that, let's have a quick look at OutSystems as a developer tool. I have an application here in this platform called OutSystems, and I have 2 or 3 components. I have my mobile phone component, I have my web component, and I have my database. Now we don't need to look at the database because let's say a developer has done that, but here's my list of my home screen here, and this is very much my Click Dev, easy tool to drag and drop all my different components. So I've got my 3 sections here, which show me my count of all the people who are working from home or in the office. And there's my list of people in the office. And if I needed to add another row or another column, there's just drag and drop different utility tools or on the toolbar here. And some of this comes down to just a bit of knowledge of how to use the tool. I won't go deeply into it, but we might have a look at the mobile app, and then I'll show you how easy it is to set up a mobile version of this tool. So if I was to run this mobile app, I have a demo version of the mobile app. This is in a browser just for developer and testing. But if I now bring up my phone, which is in my hand here, let me just do this real quick because it's a bit easier to clear the screen, as it were. So now if I do my air server, where's air server gone? Air server. And I had this working a second ago. Screen mirroring, there we go. Is there any questions while I'm just getting this demo working? We can actually use that screen in the web browser as an actual test tool. So I can actually click on these fields and the like. So if I've been unwell, this is an app that someone would see from their local app on their phone, and they would open it up and have to sign in. And if they're unwell, they'd click on this particular button and it'd say, sorry to hear, please work from home. And that would do that tick box as I showed earlier. So otherwise, we could do, I've been feeling well and healthy and I've recently had a flu shot. So now I need to take a photo of my recent flu shot certificate. I'll try one more time with Air Server because it is great the way it works. There we go, here it is now. Okay. So in my phone here, I have my Return to Work app. And this is just simply an icon on the desktop. It actually runs a tool called Progressive Web App. So it's not actually an installed app. It's actually just a web page that runs in a phone. You can actually deploy a full app to a native app, as they call it, to iOS or Android. But this is realistically just a web page, and I can open that up from a browser or using an email. So someone can receive an email on their phone, click that button and open up this app that we've generated. So, but I'm going to click on the feeling well and healthy icon, and it asks me to take a photo here. So this is again using my iPhone in my hand here, and I've got a screenshot of a certificate here, which is just a fake certificate, to whom it may concern. Been working too hard and needs an afternoon of dog therapy or a bike ride. So just a fake photo of a certificate. Dr. O'Connor has signed that. Use photo, and it will upload that photo now back to the database against my person account. And I've got to click upload. Forgot that bit. And it's uploading. There you go. Thanks. See you soon. So now if we go back and have a look at our admin dashboard, which is back over here, I'll just refresh this screen. So this might be someone who's an office administrator. I'm not listed as unavailable. And if I look at people now, I should have myself in there, Chris O'Connor, and then I've got a certificate here. And I can view that and have a look at the photo that's been, there we go. So that's the photo that I just took, to whom it may concern. So that's my worker's certificate. The other interesting thing I wanted to highlight then was in the app here was that someone who's using the phone might be able to say who's in the office today or who's working from home today. So who's in the office today, there's a list of people, and who's working from home today, Adele, Alex, and whoever else it might be. But I've noticed an issue in that Alex, I wanted to call him, but because he's working from home, I haven't got his phone number. So I want to add his phone number to that screen. Now this is where the almighty citizen developer will swing into action and say, I need to update my own app. I don't need to talk to IT. So I'm going to open up my mobile screen here, my Return to Work mobile app. And then all I need to do in my, well, that's the working from home screen, but let's look at the who's working from, oh, that's the one I wanted, I beg your pardon, who's working from home today. So I need to put in a new field in here. If I zoom this in a bit, I can't zoom that in. If I put in a new expression field here, I can put in an expression here between the Adele Vance and Adele email address. And all that I need to do in that expression is, because each of these rows of people is a user record. So the database already has a list of get Office 365 users, and I have a list of those people. And each of those list as this screen is loaded, I want to get the current row. So in that current row, I know there's a bunch of teams, bunch of locations. There's my office schedule, and then my team people, which tells me whether someone is in their team A and team B. These are database tables. If I expand this out now, I can look at the fields within this database table, and I want to simply put in the contact number. So double click the contact number. And what that will do is say, for this current row, use the contact number. And that's pretty much it. So I can now hit publish on that, and one-click publish, storing a new version up to our OutSystems cloud. And then if I go back to my mobile phone, all that will happen is that the app will simply update, and I'll be able to see that new information. Now let's go and check and see that those people that we're dealing with have a phone number. So hang on, let me go back to my Air server. My Air server's waking up again. So now if I go to here and go back to my return to work, if I pull down refresh, it hasn't updated as yet. Let me just close the app. Okay. So now if I go return to work, it should now say there's a new version, and it'll auto update itself. There you go. Your application has been updated to the latest version. So now I've just got to make sure that my people have a phone number in there for who's working from home. And you'll see that Adele Vance has a phone number. Let's update one for Alex. Alex, let's put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Save. And that saves back to the database. If I go back to my screen now, I'll just go back to the home screen, and I can set up a pull down refresh, but I hadn't done that as yet. Oh, there we go. And Alex now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as his phone number. So that's sort of, I just wanted to show a quick way of how easy it is to update a mobile phone app. Now, the creation of a mobile phone app seems like sort of black magic, and people are adding apps out of the store and out of the Play Store and whatever it might be. But realistically, creating a business app that you can then surface to individuals and employees is relatively easy. I will show one thing, because if I sign out now, it gives me the login screen. So this is an authenticated app. This is not an app that someone would need to, that anyone in the world could use. This is limited to your organization. And I suppose I will come back full circle, and probably should have shown this from the start, but if I was to open up on my Air server here, so on my phone on the right there, if I was to open up my scan code here, there's my keyboard that's sitting in front of me. That's me just waving my hand. So if I was to now look at this barcode here, this is in my test screen, I can easily take that and it will load me up my app that I was just looking at just now. So this is in the scan app on my phone, but I can easily add a link to add a bookmark or copy a link and put that on my homepage. And that's how I was able to easily put that link there on the homepage, this one here.
For those people who are in the audience, you might want to scan that code that's there, and it will launch the app and ask you for a username and password, just to show you that it's a real live app.
That's quite correct.
We encourage you to take that opportunity if you want to.
Yep. And if you were to do that, it would come up with this screen here. So yeah, take out your phone, go to the scan app, and it will ask you for a login and password, which you don't have because you are not part of our Return to Work app. But all that's needed for OutSystems then, as an application, is I just would simply have gone to create a new application and then specify that this type of application is a mobile phone app, and then start building out my database tables, and build out a grid of rows and edit screens as well. So as I say, this application, which I've really just used to demonstrate the power of this tooling. I've got a database which has teams, desks, locations, users, and a schedule. And all of those fields I've added, but everything else, all the database update logic and read logic, that's all just been done by this platform. So as I mentioned, the beauty of this sort of citizen developer tooling is that there's a lot that you can do on your own without the need of IT. But if there's any more complicated integrations, this tooling will allow for that. But you can hand it off to someone who's got the skills to do so and the knowledge to do so. Might go back and have a look at our slides now and sort of talk through a little bit more. Sort of now that we've agreed that low code is a great way to get applications going and in the hands of users quickly, as like that very immediate need of a return to work. So we quickly created an app. If we had to take months to do that, then it would have been late, from the get-go. So achieving success obviously requires much more than just technology. I mean, I can show you all the fancy widgets and buttons and screens and the rest, but we need to sort of have a different mindset, I suppose, in some respects. And that's sort of the call to action then for what we're talking about here today with myself and the team at DHCCA. I might ask Phil if he wanted to talk from here.
Thanks, Chris. And I encourage people to log any questions on the chat channel for Chris to prepare to answer, because we're really grateful that you came along today. When I first saw OutSystems, I started to perceive a way for many organisations to do more quickly, and also to put power into business units in organisations. So imagine what you could do for the comms team in terms of client-facing phone apps, desktop apps, and also things for tablets, not only for comms departments, but for the business as well. And of course, OutSystems say 5 to 10 times faster, depending on the nature of the application that you want to do, than traditional coding methods. But effectively, you can put something out this afternoon that you thought of this morning once your infrastructure's in place. And you don't have to have developers. I've seen very good apps built by business analysts. In fact, my thought is if you can drive Visio, you can probably build an app in OutSystems. But what we would like to do is, if you've liked what you've seen today and the concept about how you solve a problem for the organisation, and we think there'll be organisations that have a lot of technology, or they'll need a standalone solution to how they manage their staff coming back, then it's very quick and easy for us to create an app for you. And what we would suggest is we start through a series of just short meetings or workshops, which we can do online with you, which is handy in these times. And we will provide you a workshop and a pathway forward. We have a number of ways to get products to market, so we will always come up with the best ROI option for you, be assured of that. The idea of the Return to Work app works in small and large organisations. And of course, we've all got to keep records of who's on the premises. And I attended a small cafe in Richmond on Saturday night, and even they had a little app for trying to record who'd been in their restaurant and at what times. So apps are a very generic way, non-threatening way for people to do what they need to do.
Yeah,
so
sorry to cut you off. I had one like that as well, where that's this scanning a barcode scenario was, as I went into the cafe, they said, "Oh, can you just scan this barcode?"
Yep.
And
you can even embed the table number in the barcode if you want to go that far.
Yep.
So there's lots of ways to do it. And of course, this is an idea about one way that you might approach solving a business problem. And in running businesses, we know there's often challenges that arise, and you need something that can be done quickly, perhaps something that doesn't take weeks, something that might take a day or two. So we really ask and offer a scenario that, yes, we'll set up a session with Chris and maybe one of our business analysts, and we can have an online whiteboarding session, and then we can come back to you with some ideas about a way forward and the best way to get there. We've got sort of 4 steps that we go through, which is stakeholder engagement, ideation workshops, and that's where we can iterate through and basically ask that question, well, what happens next? What happens next? And if it fails, and we can do a workflow, we can look at some technical evaluations. We can also come up with implementation plans for you. So there's a lot of ways that we can move forward for you there, but it starts with understanding your scenario and the best way for us to respond to the challenge that you have in that scenario. It's not a one-size-fits-all response. We typically would need between 90 minutes, and in a very complex situation with a lot of integrations, maybe 3 hours. We look for solving something that really means a lot to your business. So sometimes solving a big problem doesn't take a lot of effort with some fresh eyes and some understanding. So we'd like to set some goals that if we can solve this problem for you, quite often these platforms will have other opportunities to solve more problems for you. And typically you're looking at sort of 2 or 3 solutions to get a really good ROI on these, but it doesn't mean we can't get you a simple solution on an appropriate ROI either. Our team is very skilled in working in tier 1 organisations all the way through to small organisations. So we will come up with that right-sized option. Next slide, please. If you need business case, yes, we'll help you with that. Investment summaries, we do all of that sort of work for you for free, working with you. So basically, we will provide you sometimes even a proof of concept if that's what you need to get it over, as long as those proofs of concepts can be done within 1 to 3 days. What's next, Chris? Question time.
Much it. Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen any questions pop up yet. One of the things that would be handy to know, perhaps if you could just respond to say whether you are a developer or you are approaching this from maybe that HR or business problem direction. Would you be kind enough just to key into chat whether you're a developer or someone with a business problem in mind to solve? And while we're doing that,
if you don't be shy. If you wanted to unmute and ask a question or have a discussion, please feel free. We've still got another, I think we had 45 minutes allocated for today, so yep. More than happy to have a chat and a conversation. Or if there's something else you'd like me to show with regards to this ClickDev.
So I suppose it's worth me just recapping back on, we're very happy to enter into a small or up to a half-day workshop with you at our own cost to give you a sort of way forward for you to take back to the business, or even enough understanding to know whether we can solve that problem for you or not. We're also a customer-centric organisation, so if we actually think there's a better way to solve the problem and it's not something that we do, we'll try and point you in the direction of getting the best result for your business. So we don't have to cram everything into one solution suite. Very important that we can act freely around that, so that if you're, for example, committed to a certain sort of stack and it needs to go into that sort of stack, well, we can probably give you a bit of a workflow, high-level workflow to achieve the same result if you have tools that exist in your systems. We're very authentic around customer centricity.
The other consideration is that there are other tools. This is one tool in the shed that I've been using and enjoying of late, but the Microsoft tool set as well around Power Apps and Flow, or Power Automate as it's known now, for business process automation. Aside from business apps, so there's a slight distinction between an application, I guess, and just a business process or a review cycle, escalation, those sorts of things. So there's a whole area there as well that's worth discussing and exploring. More than happy to have those conversations also.
So we've got someone who's come at this from the business side, so that's handy for us to know. And certainly, look, if you are shy and you want to talk to myself or Chris afterwards, we're very happy to pick up the phone with you. If you want to email us via inquiries at dhcca.com.au. Might get Chris to type that into the slide.
Sure.
And we're very happy to pick up some one-to-one discussions with you about how we can help you solve a problem. It might be this very problem. You're wondering, come July, on all current predictions, the government will probably start to say, if you were sort of change the advice from if you can work from home, you must work from home, to loosen that up. So when that happens, that might be the time when you're starting to think about, well, how am I going to have everybody back in the office if I have a problem where I'm at 4 square metres or 2 square metres or 1.5 square metres? We might have to only have half the people in. I'm going to need a small rostering system like this. Now, we can do things that are complex and integrate into existing rostering or staff systems that you have, if you're running a Chronos or something like that. And we can also pick up your lists from your Active Directory or LDAP, these sorts of things. These are assets that help us get things started really quickly.
Office 365 as
well. Office 365,
yeah.
Yes. This natively links in with Office 365, and that's a very easy way for us to get things up and started. So yes, please feel free to contact Chris or myself, and perhaps you could put mine up there, Chris, as well. Yep. And if there are no questions coming forward, then we'll probably say that's a wrap. And welcome you back next time. We'll have another new idea next time for when we get together in a month about something that we can build fast in front of you, and something that you can publish either in a iOS, an Android, or a progressive web app, or just use it on your desktop. So Chris, thank you for taking us through today. And Vivian, thank you for your help in getting us all in the room together, even though it's a virtual room. Yep. And I think it's now time for that birthday cake.
Yes. We'll all do a round of happy birthday. No, we won't. But I'll stop the recording before anything like that occurs.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time.
Chris,
enjoy
I think
the rest of your day.
You're the controller.
Yep. I'm just going to stop the recording.